Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of the Plant and Apps Low-Code Cafe. Today we have episode 48. And the special topic for today is we want to cover when is it a good idea to start splitting the application instead of building a monolithical application. This is a question that comes up over and over again from our customers, from our partners. We do have some best practices. We do have some many pros and cons when to do it and when not to do it. So today we will have a open conversation around that with our head of product and with Radu, that is leading the academy and the onboarding. And it will be a very interesting conversation. So make sure to put your questions in chat, in Q&A, wherever, whatever channel is more convenient for you. And for those of you that are new to this event, know that this is something that we do every week, same day, same hour. And it's a place where we get together with our customers, with our partners, with our community to discuss upcoming releases, to discuss techniques, and to do this hands-on part. Like, for example, Dale is always showing us interesting techniques that are circulated on the support channels, on our help desk system. And also the largest chunk of this event is a hands-on part, which today is the panel that we are going to have about when to split the in multiple applications. This event is recorded and all past editions are on our YouTube channel. Dale will post the links in the chat window in a few minutes. And this is the agenda for today. I will start by giving you some community updates. And today I have a very cool announcement to make because you know that our biggest growing model right now is forming partnerships. Because it takes this marriage between having good technology and then having knowledgeable partners that are in the first line with the customers, implementing the systems for them. And we are forming a very nice partnership with KPMG, and next week we'll have them in our webinar presenting one of the projects that we are building together, which is a contract management, a contract generation and financial reporting system. That was built with Plant and App, and also what's very interesting, it's integrated with a chatbot, which opens up a new pattern on making maybe simpler UX and UI for users to work on these systems. So they don't have to learn the forms, the screens. You can use natural language to get your job done. So very, very interesting techniques, and we'll send a proper invitation via email for next week. So make sure to be here. Very interesting event, and we are very happy to host them. So before getting too far ahead, I would like to give it to Dale to take over and give us the from the trenches part.
All right, hello. So today, from the trenches, the first thing that I wanted to do is just some community forum shout outs. We have a great community that's helping out by helping others. And so not only when you post a question, you may get response from my team or Plant and App, but you'll also get really great solutions and suggestions from the community. In this last week, Mark, Albert, Ben, Jim all contributed to the community forum, either by helping or by when you get your solution, when you figure out what it was you're trying to do in the first place, posting back some code or some tips, techniques. All of this helps the other members of the community. So if you're not participating there, please consider doing so. And I'll believe, well, I'll tell you what, I haven't posted that link, so I'll post that again to the community forum here in just a minute. Actually, I did. I've already posted that in the chat because I'm going to a particular question that was posted about how to show a token in a page title. And this was a good question that I've seen before, and it got an almost instantaneous answer back Jerry had asked, how do I do this thing? And just within minutes, Albert came back with the answer pointing back to our documentation, which is pretty good on the topic. But I also thought that going through this, it would be really useful to just talk about how to make this happen for when this is something that you face. So here's a little site that I've set up that demonstrates the problem. We want to show a token in the results of the page title or the module title. This is, I'm using the Exelon skin here to demonstrate today. And then we have the content of the module. Any of these places can use this, but sometimes it takes some activation. So let's take a look at these three different places. Within an HTML module, if you look at the settings, there is in the HTML module settings, the checkbox replace token. So if you update that, that will turn on, instead of displaying the name of the token, it will actually do token replacement. Now, I've set up a simple token, and we'll take a minute and take a look at that. The token is called test site title. And the idea is that maybe this is something that you want to display on every page. So I've got a token called test site title. And when I evaluate it, it just says site title on every page. If we look at the setup of this thing, in this case, it's just a constant token. I'm going to change it slightly just to show that it works. But this could be a database token or a Razor token, anything that you want to be displayed on every page. So now if I refresh, I get my slightly different site title, but it's not showing up in the, let me just leave this activated here. If I were to look at the settings of this module, I've got the module settings, I've got this token here in the module title, but it's not evaluating. And in the same way, if we look at the title that shows up at the top of the page, I've got a page title, and we can look at the way that that's set up. So the title of this page is maybe this should be page title, and then I want to include the site title on the page as well. So when I refresh that, we're getting page title, but we're not getting this token evaluation, and that's the whole question. That's what we're going to address. It's not going to take very long. So in order to do that, what we do is either modify the theme, the skin, with the modification that's documented. I'm going to bring it up here off of our documentation. It tells exactly what to do to the page to do this. So we're going to make that modification, and the choices are, like so many other customizations that you can do. Do you actually modify the skin file itself, or do you make a copy of it? In my case, I'm going to make a copy of it because I don't want to disturb the original skin. And one of the benefits of that is that if you get a new version or reapply the skin, it doesn't lose the setting because the file will not get overwritten. But that's a choice that you can make. So if we take a look at page settings for this page and look at the advanced appearance, I am using the Exelon theme, and this is the home layout that's applied. So what we're going to do is go find that in the file system, and you'll need to figure out your correct access to the file system. But I'm going to go into that, and I've already got my file system opened up. This is the root of it, and I'm going to go into the standard place where this exists. Portals default, you find the skins, and we're going to look at Exelon. So here is the home layout. It's home ASCX, and again, I don't want to actually modify the theme. I want to keep that as an original. So I'm going to copy this and rename it, and I'm going to call it Home Custom. And I'm going to open that file with Notepad, and we're going to paste that code into this file. So let me go back and grab that. Here it is here. And so we need two things, this register and this DN and Sharp for, I'm going to grab both of these at the same time just to save a little copy and pasting. But so we'll paste it in there and get rid of this little bit of documentation. But we've registered this page tokens, as well as told it to evaluate the page. And so we'll save that. And now I'm going to move this into my skins so that it will be recognized. So now we're going to have a home custom layout. And so if we go back to our page and look at the page settings, advanced, appearance, we should have now a home custom layout that we can select. So I'm going to select that and save. And so now when we refresh the page, we see that here's where I cross my fingers, right? So the title is now being evaluated. I'm not going to actually follow through and do it for the module as well, but oh, I did. It's I must have gotten it done, left it there from when I was practicing. But the file for that is in default containers, Exelon. In this case, there's the name of the item that you're using. So, for example, whatever the name of the container that you're using, title H2 circles or whatever it is, that needs a custom modification, and that again is discussed in this other documentation point, and just tells how to make the change in that file. I've posted the link to this community forum question so that you have both of those available to you. And I'm also starting the discussion with Reza. I think our plant and app skins should come with these automatically enabled. And so we're going to see about getting that into a future release. But you can modify the skins and make those changes to if you need to activate that. And let's see, that's it for my update today. And I'm going to pass you on now to Reza for product roadmap updates.
Thanks, Dale. Hey, everyone. Happy news today. So release version 114 has shipped. It's live. I see some of you, it's only been live an hour, and I see 3 people have already installed it and downloaded it. So yay. Really just kind of wanted to quickly touch on, that you can update obviously from within your application itself in the updates section. Also on your console, there's downloads if you were needing to download the file to manually upload it. Be sure to follow the update path, especially in these last couple releases, 112, 113. You need to consume all of those before going to 114. So don't skip ahead. There's some cleanup and things that happened in there, that upgrade scripts and things that need to run along the way to kind of position things to be set up right. And so let's take a quick look here. I know we talked a couple of weeks ago just about the different features that you're getting, but we've got over 60 changes that went into this release. Some of the highlights, one of the big ones, and it's for me in my building been a game changer, kind of a where have you been all my life, but the ability to specify the namespaces on workflows and entities really helps organize things, find things better, especially as that list gets bigger. The date picker, Dale, I think, showed that last week. And the ability to override the flat picker, the new date picker, via JSON and JavaScript. There was a lot of great examples out there, and so you can get some very custom things going, multilingual, different things like that. The page builder now has the ability to override your page CSS as well as the overall portal CSS. So if you want to refine your look and feel, font sizes, colors, any of that sort of stuff, you can pretty much do that and have it be universal to your application or targeted at a specific page. Just a little knowledge of CSS needed there. The KPI dashboard tiles now have the ability to specify a refresh. And so that can be set individually per tile or globally for the set of tiles. And so that comes in really handy where you have tiles that are on a page that also is listing data that people can update, add to, and the tiles will now reflect those changes. I've seen pretty good results with about a 5-second refresh interval. Haven't seen any performance issues or anything like that where things are running slow, and it seems to be just fast enough that it feels pretty much instant. When someone updates or adds a record, the counts will change accordingly. We've got additional logs. The disk logs, there was only about 40% of those that were currently actually picking up data in the files. We've got that pretty much knocked out where everything, your forms, your grids, anything going on. So if you turn on enhanced debugging, or just if there's issues that are taking place. So normally things are by default kind of logging exceptions and issues that may happen in these various areas of the application. Sometimes you can go turn that up to be, if you're trying to really get in deep and troubleshoot. And you obviously want to remember to turn that back off, but all of that's getting slurped up into the logs and are available to be downloaded right from within the application. So no need to go on disk and hunt around anything like that. Got a bunch of new actions, just highlights on a few of them. Importing and exporting modules, Dale demoed that. If you wanted to see how that works, it's in a past episode. Being able to run PowerShell from anywhere, very powerful capability. Be careful with that one, use mindfully. And also the ability to not just integrate securely with Google Sheets, but I've played around a little bit, and depending on how you set your settings up when you're creating the account that's allowed to access the Google assets, you can work with the Google Docs, the slides, YouTube videos, pretty much anything that account has access to in YouTube. And they've got their APIs pretty well documented. And so you can set up workflows, actions that will read in from, and I know Radu gave us a demo probably about a month or so ago, where he was using a Google Sheet and had kind of farming out some work, and users were able to keep that sheet updated, and he was able to do a two-way sync back and forth. So both reading in and keeping an entity updated, but then if someone changes the data in the entity and you wanted to, pushing back out to the sheet. So that one really is very powerful, opens up a lot of possibilities. And once you kind of get your hands on it, you'll start kind of thinking and realizing, wow, I can generate content and things that's maybe consumable by folks that don't need access to the app, but need the output of some of the data that's coming out of there. So you can generate all of that programmatically. Tons of little bug fixes and enhancements, some good security stuff in there. Nothing super critical on the security side, but we're always progressing there. And of course, certifying DNN 991 compatibility. Had no issues there. And just kind of looking at the tail of the tape here, about 13% to App Builder. Page Builder got a lot of love. Action Form, workflows, automation. I mean, we had a really good spread of reach, and there wasn't much that's core to the system that wasn't enhanced, touched, fixed, new features in some way. So I encourage you to obviously take your backup and then go ahead and upgrade. And I'll be sending the announcement out tomorrow, just kind of letting things settle. You all get first crack at the new version, and then I'll notify the general world that this is all available. So feel free to dig in there. Always welcome your feedback. If you find anything or notice anything with that release, please do reach out and let us, me, Dale, whoever know, and we'll hop right on it if we're able to see that it's something that needs to be addressed. We'll take a look at 1.15 maybe next week and what's on the horizon there. Just a real quick kind of high level. Going to have the ability to, this is moving us towards supporting multi-environment and a marketplace and all of this. First step though is we hear a lot of times people kind of wanting to see some of the things we've built in the cafe and be able to bring that in. So you'll be able to import a starter template into a clean application and kind of give you a jump start. or a good demo, or see how these things work without having to recreate everything by hand. We've been talking about this one. It didn't quite make it into 14, but I think it's going to be, again, another one of those kind of game-changing capabilities, being able to run a workflow as a token, and the outputs parameters of the workflow will be able to just be accessed as you would with a token anywhere. So that can do some major decisioning and you know, true false, should I show this, should I enable this field or whatever. And you know, a lot of times we're writing little Boolean statements and trying to hack all that out with tokens, and now you can put all that logic into a workflow, have that workflow return for you your true, your false, and at like runtime, render time of a form or a grid or wherever you'd want to use a token, it can be content output on the page. That workflow is going to run first, return the data, and you'll have that then wherever you need it. So you can get some pretty complex logic knocked out, but accessible as a token. Also, just kind of as a default, you know, the way we create the APIs and things going to also give you tokens to be able to read entities. So similar to the database token where you're writing SQL and then you can loop over the results or use the results of the SQL query in a token, basically just making a much more simplified version of that, which you'll get automatically with any entities you create, which will basically give you access to that data as a token. I know this one came up on the forum. We've got it coming, the reCAPTCHA v3 support, going to continue improving that date time experience. Bunch of other stuff going on in this release, but we'll save it for another time. So just know that 1.15 is underway, and should have that one going out in July. It is going to be packed with a lot of things. So is 14, stuff that's from the forums, from the support center. So please do keep those conversations going. If you're finding things, you're having stuff, we're all over it, and that is used as an excellent source to kind of not only feed the backlog, but kind of elevate the priority on some of this stuff. So your voice matters. It's heard. It's driving us. So keep it coming. Thank you. And that's it for me on the product update.
Cool. I think we are ready to move on to the panel that we have today on deciding when is the right time to start building a new app instead of keep adding to an existing system. So funny thing, yesterday or the other day, I was just discussing with Reza starting a new system. And usually I'm the guy that says, yeah, we should do a new system. But this time around, it was a bit the other way around. Reza felt like we need a new system for compliance, because a lot of the work that we are doing for the next major releases is getting SOC 2 and ISO compliant. Cool. So then I think this conversation, the way I see it, it's framed by many different topics, which there is no one size fits all, and there is no formula like when you should do it. But there are many concerns that one has to take into account. Right? These concerns can range from security, so how to handle security if multiple apps are in the one system between various users or various purposes, but also to maintenance, upgradability, scalability, performance, how easy it is to replace a system, how easy it is to own a system, to keep extending a system. So many different aspects that I would like to discuss today. And also, I would like this to also address the concerns of people in this webinar. So if you have anything in particular that we want to touch, like specific scenarios or questions, drop them in the chat and we'll address them. Cool. So maybe before addressing any of this, to add a bit more context to this conversation, I think we are using around maybe just plant and app system, maybe around 7 or 8 different plant and app systems internally. You know? So besides our website, which is a simple plant and app system, there is the community portal, there is the Low Code Academy, there is the console, there is the ticketing solution. So all these are systems built with plant and app. But besides this, there's always other systems, you know, like we have HubSpot for our CRM for sales. You know, so always there will be a combination of custom built systems and then external systems. And then I think one of the deciding factors when you create this kind of architecture is thinking which systems you need to be customized, which system can be out of the box, which system should be replaced if needed with a custom system, and which system need to go the other way around, build it custom, but at some point maybe you want to replace it with something off the shelf. You know, because this dictates already where should you split the apps. You know, for example, we have HubSpot. Maybe one day we'll build our own CRM software with Plantanet. Right? But then since it's isolated, it's its own app. Maybe later we decide that that doesn't work for us. We switch to Salesforce. You know? So then it becomes easy to replace just that part without affecting everything else. So I think this is the big context, the big picture where I would like to start this conversation. So maybe the first thing that I would like to challenge Reza with is understanding where we were maybe a couple of months ago when Reza was thinking more about avoiding creating additional applications. So I was wondering, Reza, if you can share with us how was your thinking then, and why do you think it was different when we last discussed yesterday or the other day?
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, that's the benefit of low code too, is that throw it out there. I'm lazy, and you know, want the less to maintain, and particularly, you know, not being able to. I get spoiled easy, and so used to write a lot of SQL, things like that. Been using the out of the box entity actions and things, and so it's very tempting to say I need a new thing, and maybe look at one of the systems where similar data or related data is sitting, or data I'm going to need, and say, wow, if I just spin up a new entity or drop a page here, I can make use of all this existing stuff very quickly. And so that was, I think, you know, what was driving me. Also, you know, there's a little bit of a maintenance tax. Anytime there's updates and things like that, that you've got to go and make sure you update that site, set up users, syncing users. So there's definitely some overhead that comes along with it. I think what changed for me, especially, you know, we've had conversations on this and got the gears turning, but when we went to take up the compliance, there's a lot of information. So we've got all these policies that we officially want to implement. Everyone needs to know about what's in these policies. There are controls, security controls that go along with them, whether they're about data access management, things like that. And I started realizing, wow, this is a whole different world, and I don't just want anyone in here, right? There's people who it's their job to implement the compliance and audit us and things like that should be working with this data. I do want people that work in Plantanet, for example, or customers eventually to be able to have access to what are the practices and the policies and controls we have, but realized full access to the portal and roles and worrying about the buttons and who can add and who can edit really was out of the scope here. I can make this data consumable when it's ready to be consumed outside of the system, and really for the few pieces of things that I needing to know what our features are, what releases we have, a couple of, you know, some of the change management that goes on when we build really is all that this compliance side needed to know about. Everything else is pretty greenfield and needs to be kept isolated. And so that's when I realized, and we talked, that this really makes a lot of sense to be isolated. I think it's particularly around controlling access to the system. Big part of it is audit and knowing who touched things, who edited things, who's viewed things, that kind of stuff. And so kind of takes the worry of all of that away, and knowing that there's a small group of people that are going to be working in this system versus people that are consuming information out of it. So that's kind of what led that decision there. And I think it was the right one here, definitely.
Yep. So I think maybe, yes, this is a big topic, the security, you know, so when you have like a system that's accessed both internally, so just by employees, and then maybe customers log in or public users access it as well, you always have to take extra measures to implement extra security, you know, like, which might be worth it or might be too expensive, might be more expensive than getting an additional license or an additional VM to host an additional application. You know? So sometimes the cost of managing risk is higher than the cost of licensing or infrastructure. Also, another thing that came up in our team in the past few weeks, we have this console system where most of you log in to check your licensing, to open tickets, support tickets. And this console, we've been growing it with many features, building in the same thing. So this started resulting in lack of ownership. So it's no longer clear what department or what team or which person owns which part of this huge system. So I think this is a conversation that we had in our team, and since we have Radu here, he's somehow in the front line. So I would like to if Radu, if you can share your thoughts on how you see this fixing this ownership system. When do you see it becoming a problem in a big monolithic system?
Yep. Hi everyone. Yeah, the issue came up fairly easy. Too many people working on the same system, and so let's say two guys created the core of the website, and after that, everyone who needed or something, or when the need came, another colleague of mine just started implementing stuff here and there, and in time, the people that were in the core team didn't feel the ownership of the application. It didn't feel like they built it, and the problem was it broke. And at that moment, who do you blame? The initial guys were like, no, I left it working, so it must be the issue of the guys that work after me. And then we start identifying who worked there, and we found the issue, and the second round of people that work on the application were like, well, yes, I can totally agree that this is an issue, but when I did it, it worked. So it must be from the other guy, from the initial team that developed. And in other terms, the problem was, I think at that moment was another system, or it was a mistype or something. So the system was feeding wrong information. But the problem at that point was that we had 4 people and no one was actually trying to fix the issue. Everyone was just blaming everyone, blaming the other 2. And that was the problem. That was the problem because at that point the console became more than a place to manage, to launch Plant & App application and manage application. At some point, I personally added the ticketing system into it, and after that, the licensing came in, and after that, there was reporting part in it, and after that, other stuff came in, and everyone was working to do everything in there, and no one was like feeling, yes, if something breaks, that's my fault at that point. And after that, when the academy came and the other system came, we said, no, let's not add everything in the same application to create a monolith application, because we're going to face the same problem. We're going to do a great work that is going to have no one to maintain it properly. So after that, we kind of started to split everything in multiple application, and to solve the communication part. So initially, the solution was to create a single sign-on solution. So we'll see if you're trying to log into the academy, for example, you are going to be redirected to the console. So we are keeping the same email addresses between applications, so we can identify the same person. But at the same time, if I want to break the academy, I can do it without breaking the console. And if something gets broken in the academy, it's my fault, and I'm the owner of that. I cannot blame it. Even if I want, I cannot blame it on someone else. So that's why I think that splitting application is not a matter of, sometimes it's, let me put it in another way. So split your application, because otherwise the maintenance is going to be horrible. And at the same time you say, yes, but what if I have one guy that knows everything in one application, and I'm going to ask you, what if that guy leaves? in splitting application, you reduce a little bit the risk of having to put the system down until you find someone new, because in that specific moment you may lose only a small fraction of your maintenance of the application, while the rest can work, and you don't need to put the whole system down. Or if something breaks, you only put all the effort, all the knowledge in one people. You split it in multiple people. So yeah, I think that's that's the long short story about the console.
Cool. Very, very cool, different, so this time it's like a different path that led to the, let's split the system. So with Reza was more like thinking about the technicalities of it, and Radu is now thinking more about the soft skills, the human aspect of working on the same system. Also, Radu, so this why to split it or when to split it, it's a topic that we'll keep touching, but Radu touched on a very, very good point, the single sign-on, because that's we can also get and touch a bit of how do you do it, right? So when you start building multiple systems, you start having a bunch of new problems that you have to solve, right? You have to upgrade, maintain all the system, make sure that they are backed up. You have to integrate the data between them, and this will go back to what Reza mentioned about being able to do something fast. Just throw a page, you already have the data, and we are just discussing this I think last week with Reza, and we are thinking like, wouldn't it be cool to be able to import the data model from an app to another and having available as actions? So then you don't rely to having to create all those APIs manually between the instances. It can be a simple import. Behind the scene is still APIs because it's different instances, but it will be transparent. So we are thinking about this since we are making it a pattern. We are thinking that yes, we do need to have the features to make it easy as well. So speaking on patterns, I think the first one and probably the most common in this world when you have multiple systems is to have a single sign-in between various instances. And I think let's start. Maybe Radu, you can share a bit about our single sign-on solution that we have now, because I think it's interesting from some perspectives.
Yes. What exactly do you want so from how it works, or
so maybe I think yes. The first interesting part is how we decided to use our current solution, and how we elected one of the system to be the single sign-on system, and how we use this as an alternative to going maybe a different route, like an Active Directory kind of solution.
All right. So the idea was that because of the ownership problem and maintenance problem, we decided to split the application. But this came up with the problem, with this. I'm not the problem, but the situation where I think Reza came and said, "Well, I need to know if someone did something in Academy or if someone did something in the ticketing system. So when they come to the console or when they come to the ticketing system, I need to know if they completed one of the courses or something. I need to know what's actually happening with the user into my multiple applications." So a single sign-on solution is it's gonna solve you that problem, because you will have one identifier, and in our case is the email address. We'll have one identifier, and based on that identifier, all the system can provide information to who needs them through APIs about that person. Hey, tell me about something about Bogdan's email address, and I can say he didn't finish the academic course yet. He has 3 tickets. He has whatever, and I can connect to multiple only to the instance that's it's storing that information. And I don't care about how the application is stored. For the academy, if Reza wants to know how many courses a person finished, he doesn't need to know the technicalities behind. He's just gonna come to me and say, "I need that," and I can provide that, and it's my ownership at that point to maintain that API. It's not Reza's ownership to maintain. He needs it. I provide it. I maintain it. Now, continuing on this single sign-on topic. So it's, as I said, it's your email address is the same in all the systems, so I can identify you through all the other systems. and it's definitely needed if you want to have application splits. Otherwise, it's going to be complicated. Instead, I think Bogdan, you asked me why I didn't go for an Active Directory.
Yep.
I had the knowledge to build a single sign-on solution inside PlantanApp. I had zero knowledge about how to integrate an Active Directory, and I said, you know what, it's just a few workflows here and there. Let's do it like this.
Yeah. And I think if I remember the conversation, also a single sign-in, it's difficult to find a solution that would work good also for employees, but also for public users, right? Because many of our systems, anyone can join. You know, the low-code academy, it will be for everyone, or the console where people can get trials and so on. So then it's difficult to find such a single sign-on solution off the shelf, right? So then I think also what's interesting, the pattern that's interesting is that when you build a second system, you can use PlantanApp to designate the first instance as the source of truth for user and user profiles. And then have all the new systems that you build connect to the first system to authenticate. So it's a very interesting pattern that I think, I'm not sure if we did a webinar on that or not, but if not,
not yet. And yes, yes, what you're saying is true. The one decision that you have to take in splitting the application in multiple application is you have to decide on a main application, and the main application. I'm not gonna say it's 100% every time, but mainly it's the first application that you have. That's your main business, let's say, and after that, all the applications that come around are just helpers to the main website. So
yep.
Given that, usually your first application is going to be the master of handling the logins and handling the updating user profiles and other things like that. And otherwise, the satellites applications are only going to be there to either provide a service to your client, or to collect some specific information, or provide some specific process, a specific business thing to the user that is not mainly related to the main business. So we are, in our case, PlantanApp is giving you the low code application, but the support is not, well, it's part. Don't get me wrong, it's part of the PlantanApp experience, but it's something that is handled by Dale's team. So I wanted to create something. We wanted to create something that is specific to Dale and specific to our business. So let's implement a support ticket. Other side, I was tasked with handling the academy side. So I went and built myself an academy side. But the thing is that Dale's work and my work only connect on a very small margin, let's say, and that margin where we connect is going to be handled through APIs, not the same platform. Just connect only where you need. Don't connect everything.
Yeah. Interesting thing here. We are also considering that maybe the user profile, the single sign-on portal, should also be separate. Should not be in the console. But in the end, we decided that console would always be there. People would always have to have an account in the console to access their licensing and their application. So we know that they always have to have an account there. So then we decided that we can avoid having an extra system, because extra systems come with this penalty, of course. And also, Radu mentioned something very interesting, and I would like to maybe get it back to Reza, because when you start building multiple applications, that's when you have to start thinking about what Reza mentioned, that he wants to avoid having to integrate data from various systems. And we mentioned that we might have some features to make it easier, but in the meantime, Reza, what do you see the best patterns and practices to connect data between the systems?
So it depends, I think, how heavily you need to connect. If it's a lighter touch, I think APIs are the best way to go. If you're needing a whole lot of data out of the system, you can always connect to the database by specifying a connection string in the configuration of the portal. And then you natively will have access in your grids and forms and things like that to query against the tables that are in that other applications database. And so that's, you know, the gravy way, but I wouldn't go that far if I just need 2-3 sources of information, maybe powering a listing, a drop-down field or something. These can all be accomplished with APIs. I actually did that this morning on console, and it was 5 minutes to tap into the change notes that were coming from the new system. So that those are refreshing now and picking up all the new stuff. They were pointing somewhere else. And I've noticed that, so the third way was that you can embed grids and things like that, forms from other portals as well, right? But in this case, I think there's some security things there, and it's more like you're embedding UI rather than just getting access to data. So I think first choice is APIs, and especially with now being able to run workflows and things out of APIs, you can do some pretty complex things and apply logic and things like that. So you're getting exactly what you need just by the API call.
Yeah. And how do you think? I mean, maybe not everybody knows. So just to make it public. On each release that we are making, before making it public, we upgrade all the systems that we mentioned, all our internal system, and we let the release cook. You know, so then we know that it's some kind of production level validation before giving it publicly to customers. So then maybe here also it will be very, very interesting, Reza, to get your perspective on what's the extra cost or concerns with upgrading when you split and have, let's say, 10 different systems instead of a single one. What do you see the pros and cons of when it comes to upgrading all the systems?
Yeah, first one that pops out to me, and Radu kind of touched on this, and is that, so there's certain, and this to me is a reason to separate things. So there are like the licensing and the ticketing system, right? This is being used constantly. It's customer facing, and it's got some really important information in it, right? And so we want to give a heads up and make sure that things are available. So we need to send notification out there. If these were built in, if this was one monolith, anytime we want to update something, I've got a 48-hour lead time. I've got to send notification out. So by isolating parts that are maybe providing critical functionality, you don't bloat that system, right? The help desk is for help desk, licensing is for licensing, and you can put those redirects up, you can announce, but the other systems were free to update at our leisure, things like that. And so you have a faster path also for checking out. So just like I was saying earlier, hey, go ahead and take the 1.14 update back up first. Make sure everything's good, right? Exercise some of the critical functionality of the system. Well, when the system is massive, that takes a long time to check everything out. And then if you find something, you're gonna maybe have to roll back, right? You find it later. But if the ship's already sailed in something like a ticketing or a licensing system, right? And now if I wanna go back, well, I'm gonna lose those licenses, I'm gonna lose the tickets or the conversation that happened there. So they're faster and easier to check on, right? And when they're self-contained like that and they're serving their purpose. So that'd be another consideration I would say, is that, hey, this needs to always be up. Maybe it doesn't need to change that often. It provides a certain core piece of functionality, which is more like business logic. Go ahead and let it do that logic, but don't mix in all the other stuff, the kind of contact us form and here's FAQs and that kind of stuff, which no one is gonna worry about if they can't access it for 5-10 minutes or an hour, right? But if your ability to license your system in our case is down, that's a big deal, right? And we want to be very careful with how we do that. So it can, even though there's multiple systems, the checking out of these systems, and I think again Radu touched on this, different people have different knowledge about different areas or different functionality. If all this is lumped into one place, I've also got to get a village together of knowledgeable people that know, hey, here's how you check out licensing, here's how you check out the help desk, here's how you check out the change notes and stuff that's coming out in a release, academy, community forum, whatever. So by isolating them and scoping them down smaller, yes, there's more individual times you might need to update, but the updates are smaller and faster to both apply and validate that they were successful. A note I'll touch on. So, I started my life as a Plankton app customer, DNN Sharp customer, and did in a corporate enterprise environment, and kind of had a monolith that got created over time. It became very easy once we saw the power of being able to serve ourselves and make solutions internally. But that was literally where we found ourselves after a couple of years. There was so much functionality, almost like 20, 30, you could almost call them apps, right? Things for like budgeting and finance, had sensitive information about people's pay rates and stuff. So a lot of concerns started popping up about making sure, are we securing this? Your list of roles and stuff gets very, very massive. You can't just rely on they're in the manager role or the developer role, because there's things that I don't want people to see. And so we had a very, very large list of roles. When someone new came, it became very hard to kind of, do I have the right blend? You're only seeing what you should. You don't have access to other parts of the system. And so having the ability to have separated out would have, I think, built more trust in the organization, knowing that just the right people are accessing. And it started becoming scary to update when you get so bloated like that, and maybe you fall a little bit behind. I think all of us have had some kind of site or portal like that hasn't been updated in a while, and you start dragging that along with you. And in order to go do the update, it's going to be a really big affair, day-long, 2-day-long thing to update everything, validate everything. And so that was a really good case, again, where wanted to isolate who can touch what. Maybe the information does need to do a little bit of sharing, but in general, the finance and budget stuff doesn't impact maybe change process that you're doing for what you're building, right? Let's separate those off. And again, you can update much, much quicker and lighter and validate that everything's good when you don't have a bloated monolith.
Cool. Yeah. I think, this needs to be a much longer conversation, because there's many other different aspects to cover. But before proceeding, there are some questions in the chat that I would like to address, so to make sure that there is time for them. So one question from Mark is if you have one system handling users and profiles and authentication, if satellite apps needs to change user data, do this satellite system maintain their own copy of user data, or do they connect with the master for the user interaction? Radu, do you want to speak about?
Yes, it's only, no, it's only, the satellite applications are only holding first name, last name, email address, and the picture. The rest of the information is pulled through APIs if needed. So I'm just, I'm only synchronizing informations that are needed for you to have a good UI experience. If you change your picture on the main site, to also have it to the satellite website. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the information, I personally recommend pulling it through APIs. Don't slow down. There are two options. It's either you synchronize all the satellite applications when the user logs in, which may get slow at some point, or only pull the information when you need them, and that's the way I recommend.
Now that you were mentioning, I just remember another reason why we chose to do our own implementation of single sign-on, and that was the profile information. Because with all the providers that we looked at, they had very limited capabilities to store enhanced profile data. Like we wanted maybe to push documents into the profile. We wanted to put a lot of metadata about various systems where the user operates, and most of the systems have like limited information, limited amount of information that you can put into the directory, and also limited types that you can put. Right? So you have to do always maybe store IDs in the Active Directory solution, and then translate those IDs to something else, which is a Plankton app system anyways, to maintain all the profile. Cool, yeah. So the short answer, Mark, yes, is use APIs to sync the user profile information with the main portal. I'm hearing that it's not politically correct to call it master portal anymore, and we should call it maybe main portal or main system. Cool. We have another question from Jim, which I think it's in line with what we've been discussing earlier, Reza. Is there a way to share an entity definition between systems, then change connection string to source of truth database?
So if I understand that question as is, I think that you had touched on this, Bogdan, and that's what we're talking about is we want to make a action that feels and looks like read entity, update entity, partially update entity, but really it's for external entity, maybe is what we're saying there, read external entity, that kind of stuff. And probably you'll have something that allows you to connect to the other system so that this system knows that one's in my purview now. Let me go ahead and read the definitions and make available these external entity actions. And so that's something I think we're going to move on. It'd be very useful. The other way I could interpret that, probably not what you're asking, but we've talked about this as well in the past, and is to same way that you can import and export workflows, but to be able to import the definitions of entities, but then the entity is living in this system. So it's probably not exactly what you're asking here, just wanted to touch on. I do see value in that where not so much because I want to run two different systems at the same time as much as I want something that's in another system in this system. Don't make me recreate it all by hand.
Thanks, Reza. I'm hoping this answers your questions, Jim. And we have 2 more minutes. I wouldn't want to start a new topic, but I would invite if there are more questions or if any of the panelists wants to add something else about this topic that is important and hasn't been said. Maybe it would be very cool to get Dale's opinion. That's maybe sitting there from the support perspective, from having to support customers with this setup, but now also having such a system, the ticketing system built into the big architecture of PlantaNAP.
Well, I don't know that I'm answering that question specifically, but I have been copiously taking notes as the discussion has gone on, and it occurs to me that a single sign-on example for a future low-code cafe would be useful. And I think having Radu demonstrate the techniques are things that our users are going to be facing as they grow. So good.
Cool. So thanks Dale, and thanks everyone for being here in this webinar. We'd really appreciate having your feedback as well on this new on this format. So this is maybe atypical to what we've been doing so far. We've been doing a lot of screen sharing and showing how we build systems, and this is like a different way of doing it. Let's do a panel to discuss how to make the right decisions, because the right decisions create successful projects. So happy, I would appreciate it very much if you gave us your feedback in the form that Dale already posted in the chat. And thank you for being here, and see you next week when we'll have KPMG as guest speakers with us to look at the interesting integration with chatbots. Until then, have a wonderful week. Bye, everyone.